Okay guys, we're going to make your pinch pot critter creatures today, and here's an example of one. And we've already made our pinch pots, okay, in the other video. And you can see on this one, I have my initials going around the outside of it and a design. And I did that before I put my stuff, my legs and my arms and my head and my tail on. And then I'll go back over that after I'm done to put it back in. Then in the bottom, you want to put your class number and your initials. So this was an example made for Mrs. Truax's class. So it says 3AT. You can also do your initials like this, where it's the 3, the Roman numeral 3, and JO for Mr. Olson. And if you have Mrs. Park, it'll be HP. If you have Miss Machiavelli, it'll be RM. Okay, and so on and so forth. Mrs. Call will be LC. Mrs. Ling will be LN. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you got room to work in, okay? And again, we're going to use that hook method that I'm going to show you, that I've shown you in class, where you're hooking the legs over the side. So in case your scoring and slipping doesn't hold, which it should, because you know, if you're doing it the right way, it should hold on pretty good. But they hook over the side. So if they do come loose, we can just put glaze underneath it when we glaze them. And this one's going to be glaze fired pretty soon. So this isn't the end one. The picture on the web page will be the finished version of this. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is, here's my pinch pot I've made. Okay, I'm ready to put my coils on. I have my slip, which is like my glue for clay. And I'm just using my paper clip, and that's all I need. So the first thing I need to do is have an open. First of all, you need a little bit of area to work in. You need about, you know, a foot by a foot area to work in, so you can roll out your clay. So you'll get your chunk of clay, and the first thing you're going to do is make it into like a rope, because you're going to make coils. So this is the pinch pot part of the project. This is the coil part. So I make a coil and I take it and I make it into a rope. Okay, so that looks like a rope. So I'm getting the basic shape first. Then I take it and I start to roll it out. Now you want to hold the paper down, and you have to roll across your entire hand. If you don't, you're going to end up with it. I'll show you what happens if you don't. You'll end up with a flat tire. If you just go like this, because it's just hopping it over from one side to the other, see how it turns into a flat tire? Okay. So it's flat, it's not round. You want a round coil. So I'm rolling this out, okay? And when you're pushing kind of down in to the clay. So you're pushing into the clay. So you're controlling the clay. The clay is not controlling you. Okay? So I'm rolling it out. And all I do is I move my hand to wherever it looks thick. And when your final coil should be like the thickness of those thick pencils that we used in kindergarten, okay, or a little thicker than that. It's always better to have a coil that's too thick than too thin, because then if it's too thin, they break off too easily. So there's my coil, and I'm going to put this off to the side. I just want to show you, when you make your feet and things coming out, they can't extend too far where they're sagging. So I think this clay that I used when I made this was a little firmer clay, because it's sticking out a pretty good amount. If I try that with this clay, it wouldn't work quite as well, because this clay is pretty soft. So everything depends on your clay that you're using. Okay, so I'm going to make two arms and two legs out of it. So I'll take my coil, and then I just simply will start to cut it into smaller pieces. And see how I just have that? I made a loop and then I cut it in the middle. Okay, and then I'll make another loop, and then I'll cut it in the middle, and I make another loop, and then I cut it in the middle. So then I know I have all even pieces because of that the first loop I made. So I'll put two off to the side. Now I'm going to make my arms first. So the key for the whole thing is that you score and slip. So remember, you're going to put everything inside. It's going to hook around, and it's going to come out like this. So see how it's doing that? So now if I hold this though, see how it's sagging a little bit? So I might not be able to make it quite that long, but we'll see in a second here. So I take it and I score the inside all the way to the top where it's going to sit, the top, and I go around the outside, and then I'll just go back over. And I want to rough it up because that's going to make like little fingers that when I push the clay together, they're going to kind of smush together and hold together. Okay, so then I'll do the same thing to my leg I'm going to make. And not the whole thing, because this will be on the table, because when we laid that out, that part was down here. So I do the same thing. I score this whole thing, and I go the other direction. Okay, now I just take some slip, and I put a drop, drop, drop. And what that does is, slip is kind of like a glue for clay. Now, you don't take slip and rub it all over, okay? What I do is I put it in here, and I gently push it on there. I'm not pushing it on super hard. I wrap it around, so I'm actually on the whole entire piece. The piece is on the side, and there's one of my feet. Now, that's pretty good. See how it's touching the whole way, okay, inside there? Now to make it look more like a foot, I can take it and I take my finger and gently push on the end of it there, okay, to push it down so it's a little flatter. And guys, when you're handling it now, you gotta be really careful now because it starts to get really tricky. So now to make it look like a foot, I'll just take my paper clip and I'll push in there, and I'll push in there, and I'll kind of spread them apart a little bit there. And there's my foot, okay? And later you can go back in with a pencil or something and you can make a texture to make it look like scales. And if you're doing your animal report animal, you can do your animal report animal. If you're gonna do a turtle, you would just have your leg come out this way. This would be your shell. This would be your head of your turtle, okay? And your legs would just kind of peek out from the side. All right, so to make a head, you're going to make your head standing up. So this would be too long, but it's the same idea. You score in here, you score here, and then you attach with slip. You gently push it on here. Now, for the head is going to be too long. I'm going to make it kind of curl back like a snake, but my head is too long. It's going to droop and fall off. So I kind of trim it, so now I don't have as much clay. See how it can stand on its own now? But then if I curl it back like this and make like an S shape with the head, I can cut into here, and I can open it up, and I can make like a mouth, okay? So that's how you add little details like that. For your tail, you might do the same thing. Same thing like that, okay? So depending on what you're making, you may want to put it on the side for like a bunny and have the head here coming out like this. Okay, so think about how you're going to construct it first, maybe, and then go from there. And then at the end, you'll have your finished one that will glaze when you bring in to class. After it dries out and becomes bone dry, that's what we'll use. Okay.